You too, man. Always good.
Definitely, man. Oh, and we are live. What's
And we
good, bro?
are alive.
What's up?
Pistons
What's up?
lost.
What's up, Mr. John Murphy?
Pistons lost, and we have this type of energy. Look at that.
Hey, you know, because there's some positives to take away from here. You know, you never want to
Yeah.
celebrate a loss, but there were some good things that I saw from tonight's game, man.
Well, listen,
We'll
man.
get to
I'm gonna level with y'all. I feel like after watching the Pistons for as long as I have, I feel like I'm in a position where I'm pretty used to seeing them in the losing category, right? So, like, maybe to me, I'm not affected as much. Maybe just because how I view this season and the aspect that I'm in. But listen, first things that jump off the page. It looked like one of the worst teams in the league last year played one of the teams that went to the finals last year. Right? It looks
yeah,
like a team. It looks like a team that's coming out of the lottery that is still figuring out who they are and figuring out, like how to win with this combination of players. They still, at the end of the day, I know a lot of people talk about coaching, but Dwayne Casey can't shoot four guys, let alone he can't adjust to his team going 7 of 33 from beyond the arc. That's not going to give you a chance to win any
nah,
night, right? But also any night that that Killian Hayes is, your go-to scorer in regards to Cade, I don't care who you're playing, you're not going to win any night, right? So like I think, it's like an uncharacteristic rough night from Cade against a team that was first defensively last year. They've had their struggles this year. However, they're definitely starting to look more into form in this game. In addition, the big thing, talked about on the broadcast, but Sam Hauser coming in, hitting some difficult shots, but catching fire from three. It just seems like every time the Pistons, were able to climb back into this one, it seems like Boston went on a mini spurt and run and we're hitting some really good shots. So, all the credit to Boston. They look incredible. Jason Tatum looks like he could be the MVP this year. But yeah, I mean, definitely the Pistons have a lot of areas to grow. However, Jaden Ivey, especially in the first half, looked fantastic. Jalen Duren, I thought he had some moments where he looked solid. But then Killian Hayes, to have the burst of scoring that he did, the confidence that he was playing with, the rhythm that he was playing with, but most importantly, Greg Kelser said it in the broadcast too. He wasn't thinking, he was just playing, right? And so it's just one of those things where, yeah, it sucks to see another double digit loss. What is it, the fifth of the season? It's definitely not something that you want to see continue. But at the same time, with reports, with Alec Burks and Marvin Bagley both being updated in the injury report, with them, seemingly going to be back soon. I think this team could potentially be looking different here pretty soon. And I would wager that, a month from now, 2 months from now, we're not going to be having this many double digit losses in a row. So I think there's good signs to look at. I think there's growth that's being had. And I get it. It sucks, but that was some of the top of the class in the league.
yeah. Well, I'll give my take on the game. Um, I don't know what people expect coming into any of these games. I see already in the comments people talking about Cade and his shot and things of that nature. I don't know what people want. I listening to the opposing broadcast, these people they gush about Cade Cunningham. They put up a bunch of different pictures and graphics and things of that nature that show he's still leading all second year players in scoring. Obviously, you want to see him become a little bit and get a little bit more efficient. But as it relates to a leader, Cade Cunningham is the unquestioned leader on this squad. They just need more talent. They need to get healthy.
Well, also,
Those are
I
the
mean,
two biggest
rough
things
nights are
that
going to
they need
happen.
right now. Yeah. Rough nights are going to happen, but you can expect more rough nights, and for this team to not necessarily look some of the ways that we expected them to look until they get healthy. That's just it. There's some conundrums that just have to be settled. If you
Yeah.
don't have the talent, then you're going to get ran off the court by a team that has the talent. And Boston Celtics are not just a team with talent, but an established team. They're a good team.
Yep.
And that's number one there. You know, if you come into this game tonight, what you want to see is specific things. Yeah, you want to see Cade Cunningham go out there and be tough, you know, every single night, but it's not gonna happen like that.
Also,
That
even the best players in the league are gonna have an off night. I mean, it was an uncharacteristic night from Cade. You could argue it was perhaps the worst game, of his career so far, but, like, even then, like, you know, who doesn't expect Cade to come out and have a better night the next night? I mean, do we not remember, just, over a week ago, he got 27 against Milwaukee, one of the best defensive teams in the league, another team that has a legitimate case to go to the finals. It's like, this was an anomaly from Cade. Obviously, you wanna see him play better against some of the best in the league, but he's had great performances against Boston. So,
yeah,
I
I take all Cade anything with a grain of salt right now. Like it just is what it is.
mhm.
I'm not getting into any snap judgments, especially about Cade Cunningham, until maybe even halfway into the season. Period. I don't know what you want. What are you gonna do? You're gonna sit here and talk about what? You're gonna pick at his stats. You're gonna
Well, we can't here's the other thing too, because here's where I
yeah,
wanna stop it right here, because, yeah, you can criticize him, you could say when he has a rough night, but
yeah,
you can't but
definitely.
here's the thing, you can't have your cake and eat it too. You can't, on his good nights, come out and act like he's him, say that, "We have this bright future, he's a star, he's a stud, he's your favorite player, you love him, you're gonna back him," and then when he has an off night, come out and just say, Cade sucks. It's going flat. He needs to be better. He's got to step up. Like you have to like be patient because he's 21 and we have, Jason Tatum, we saw him play really well when he was a young player, but it really wasn't until, now where he's like 25, 26, where he can come in and be better. But MK, I'm not saying, yeah, yes, both can be true that he needs to play better and that he's great. But like the reality of it is when he has an off night, that doesn't mean you just react by going, "Oh, he sucked. He's gonna have to step it up. That's unacceptable." You go, "Yeah, he shot 1 for 11. He had a bad night.
Yeah,
He had
and I
one
want to
bad
put
night of
this.
82."
I want to put this in perspective as well. This notion of Cade Cunningham. Most of his stats are up marginally from last year, including his shooting stats. So Cade Cunningham is moving in the right direction. These are the things that, if you're staying keyed into, one game is not going to be some blip. It's just not. I remember when he started last year off, people were quick to kind of get to the articles and things about Cade being a historically bad shooter. That blew up in a lot of people's faces. People started talking about Cade's not the best rookie. He might not even be the top three rookie and things of that nature. Uh, Certain players, look, there's going to be ebbs and flows to this thing. They're not going to be perfect. You find that perfect player, then definitely let's try and get them in the Pistons uniform. But we got somebody kind of next closest to it, and that is Cade Cunningham right now. He's going to have
Mhm,
some bad nights. One of the aspects of his game coming into the NBA that people question was his shooting, was going to be his field goal percentage and his efficiency in that department.
mhm.
I believe he's actually fared a little bit better early on than I thought that he would.
Yep.
Currently, his field goal percentage is at 43%. That's up from last year, which was at 41%.
Mhm,
You want to look at his effective field goal percentage. He's at 47% there. You look at all of his advanced stats as it relates to shooting, those things are all a tick up. His true shooting last year was at 50 points, about 50%. This year, he's treading at about 51%. So Cade Cunningham is doing what Cade Cunningham does. The thing that he's still not getting though is the free throws. The free throw rate was 16.3% last year. It's only at 19.2, and it's gone down.
mhm.
Couple streams ago, we talked about this. His free throw rate was at least near that 30% range. It's dropped a whole 10% in 2 games. So you know what I'm saying? Like, look, if these guys are not going to give him calls, he's not going to get it's going to be a lot more tough, especially without Marvin Bagley and guys in there that can definitely open up that middle for him. And then when
Mhm.
you just have an off night shooting the ball, which, hey, guys, guess what? It can happen. You're going to have nights that look like this. One of
Yeah.
the positives, though, is that you have guys that stepped up. You did.
Mhm.
You need Cade Cunningham at his absolute best to be able to have an opportunity to beat a team like the Boston Celtics. But to see guys like Killian Hayes, to see guys like even Hamidou Diallo, I've really liked the energy that he's brought. I know his stats
Yeah.
don't really stream off the stat sheet, but I've loved the energy he's brought over the last several games. Killian, Jalen Duren in that first half off the bench. These are things that you want to see. This is exactly what you want to see. In a night where hey, you're losing, Cade doesn't have it. What else is going? Jade Ivey was probably obviously the most impressive Detroit Pistons
All over the box score again.
all over the floor, bro. Just everywhere. I mean, these are things that we talked about when we were going through draft prep. This is why I wanted Jade Ivey. It's his absolute ability to just run by you in the half court, run by you in the full court. I, as he gets his composure and as he gets that mid-range game going, that's something that Rod Beard brought up today on the Woodward Pistons podcast. As he kind of finds that middle game, Jaden Ivey is going to be dag near unstoppable.
Mhm.
People know right now he doesn't have a middle game right now.
Right.
People know that. And he's still able to just find his way to the basket. And he's getting to the free throw line. He needs to get that up a little bit more. Hopefully the refs are, stop this whole notion of not calling fouls for our guys. It's whack, dog. It just I don't even know a better term for it. They're getting fouled. These
Yeah.
guys are tackling the rim. They're just not getting the calls that they need, man.
Yeah.
I did not want no Keegan Murray. Get out of here, RB the baller. It was Jabari Smith if we had a top 3 pick, or Jaden Ivey if we was fifth. I see you though, bro.
You were still
Here,
trying
man.
to
I wanted Ivy.
until the
That's
day of,
what's
you were
going
still
on.
trying to trade up for Jabari Smith in points, man.
Yeah. Look. Jabari, that was the guy, man, for a minute. But Ivy
No, but
was
hey,
was
hey,
was
if we did a
far
redraft, if we did a redraft now, I think we'd be taking Ivy.
Yeah.
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 But
Yeah.
I think the other thing too, like you say, it's his ability. I think obviously we saw him, be able to be pretty good in the offensive end with his scoring at the beginning of the season. But I think now it's his ability to impact more of the game. And I think this is where, the Russell Westbrook comparisons can come in, because he's starting to rebound like Russell Westbrook did. And he's also starting to dish it like he did as well. And another game, no turnovers. So he's
Mhm.
taking care of the ball. By the way, all this talk about Cade having a big turnover problem, he had 2 turnovers tonight. So as if he, was, turning the
Yeah.
ball over every possession. But that's a whole other conversation. But with Ivy, if he can continue to impact the overall court, like that's where he can start to enter more of the conversations of what John Morant was like his rookie season, because that was what made him so good his rookie season, was his natural ability to come in and help make guys better day one, and also be able to consistently get his, right? So it's encouraging that that at the end of the day, that with Ivy, that like you can expect to start seeing better and better performances. And if he keeps playing like that, and then Cade has one of his performances that he's had, I mean, guys, we've seen that this offensive unit is productive. StatMuse put out just today the highest scoring lineup in the NBA is the Detroit Pistons starting 5. That is Cade Cunningham, Jaden Ivey, Sadiq Bey, Isaiah Stewart, Bojan Bogdanovic. The highest scoring one lineup in the league is
Mhm.
that lineup. So I know the shooting woes were there. I know the team didn't look great tonight. But guys, there are signs that this team can pick it up and turn it around. Do we not remember this time last year when the Pistons were going through almost the exact same issues, when they were down a big man at the beginning of the season? They were lacking depth in that department. Whenever Isaiah Stewart or Jalen Duren, or last year just Isaiah Stewart, wasn't on the court, we would suffer. And then what it was like when we didn't have Jeremy Grant. And now we're essentially without Jeremy Grant, and we don't have have one of his replacements, Alec Burks. Like, let's see where this team's at like a week and a half, 2 weeks from now, but like also in January or February, when this team, is starting to get over these bumps, is starting to understand what it takes to play at an NBA pace 48 minutes a night. And it's going to be better than this, I can tell you that. They're going to win a road game. I feel confident saying that. So I get the
I mean, honestly,
frustration,
people,
but again, y'all could say you need a better coach or we need a better coach all you want, but I don't know what coaching was gonna do to overcome, the talent discrepancy, especially two guys on the other side like Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown who combined for 61 points,
but
right?
what
Like
I want
that.
to ask is this though, who out there would have bet on the Pistons to win this game though? You know what I mean? Like it's like, are we using the perspective of where they are in this restoration? Because I want to bring everybody's attention to the fact that this is realistically what, year two in the restoration? Maybe? Like
Also,
in the actual rebuild, it didn't start in necessarily Troy Weaver's first year, like right out the gate. He didn't come in and they say, hey, here's your draft picks, here's your capital, get to work. It was a situation that still kind of had some stuff to clear up with Blake Griffin here and everything. When they drafted Cade Cunningham, when they basically got rid of Blake Griffin in March of 2001 and then drafted Cade Cunningham, that started the restoration. This is effectively year two. They have stocked this team with young talent that we've never seen before. They stripped the team down to the studs. This is what it's supposed to look like. And it's actually looking better than what I thought a rebuild would have to actually look like. We
also,
staved that off for years, saying, "Oh, let's keep win now, let's win now, let's win now." Now
so
they stripped it down. It looks like what it looks like. Guys, it's going to take a little time.
Also, if you watched the game, because everyone's like, play your big men, play your big men, play your big men. Isaiah Stewart had 3 fouls in 8 minutes in the first half, essentially disqualifying him for the rest of the first half. And Jalen Duren played the most minutes that he's played in an NBA game thus far, recovering from his ankle injury, playing for 30 minutes tonight. And he played really well in those 30 minutes, and
Mhm.
he stayed out of foul trouble. But it's hard to play both of your big men for 30 plus minutes when one of your big men's in foul trouble. That's how the NBA works. So that's the thing. Like, I understand that you want to see, and like people could say we're making excuses all you want, but listen, man, I've been this like all of you that are like, oh, I'm just sick of watching this team lose. Like, I've
Bashir,
been watching, like, play your big man, like,
they don't
brother,
have any big men, bro. Like they have to literally be healthy. They don't
like
have
Nerlens
one.
Noel, yeah, he played for 3 minutes, but he's literally there in like break glass in case of emergency. But in addition, he's hardly even in NBA shape right now. Can we be honest? Like he doesn't look quite ready for NBA action right now. He just doesn't.
No, and that's the thing. Marvin Bagley got here last year, and we talked about the fact that though he has obviously elite level, some top level skill and talent,
Mm-hmm.
he looked gassed at times. Obviously, Noel being a much older player at the back end of a career, he's going to have to get into basketball playing shape. And Coach Casey talked about that as well. But with player big men, I got to, like I said, we're gonna talk about this again. I've been talking about this since Marvin Bagley went down. I got to ask Coach Casey this in a press conference. What are the challenges of
Oh,
managing
Bashir's
these
with
big
us. He
men?
said he was trolling.
I got you. I got you. But I know there's other people. There's other people out there in the comments as
We're
well.
just addressing it in general, by the way.
Yeah,
We're not
just
addressing
in
you
general.
specifically, Bashir. There are other people that are saying play your big men, and it's like it's not how that works entirely. Like they are like if they could play those guys 40 minutes plus every night, they
Yeah,
would.
that's
But
that's where I'm getting to. I want to be able to, at least let the people know what Coach Casey's actually saying. What the team is actually saying, what they're dealing with, and then what do you guys think they're supposed to do, based on what he's stating. He's saying they right now have two big men. One of those big men are actually over 6'10. The other one is not over 6'10. That is Isaiah Stewart, and then they got Jalen Duren. One of those guys is a rookie who does not know the finer points of NBA defense just yet, though he has a ton of natural ability. Again, that's Jalen Duren. They can't play these guys together based on the way the NBA is calling them for fouls. They're getting called for fouls at a really, really weird rate. If they both get into foul trouble, they have absolutely no big men, and you will see the Pistons lose then by like 30 points or 40 points. He said
also,
until Marvin Bagley gets back, he said he wants to play Stu and Duran together. He said he wants to play two big men lineups, but right now they just can't afford to do that.
because let's play a game, guys. You have two big men. When Isaiah Stewart comes out, who's coming in for Isaiah Stewart? Jalen Duren. If Jalen Duren and Isaiah Stewart are both on the court together and both get in foul trouble, who's coming in for both of them? Neither of them are going to be a big man. You want to see more lineups with Kevin Knox playing the center again? You want to see more lineups with Sadiq Bey and Bojan playing the center?
I see people saying
Aaron,
you stagger
Aaron,
him with what
Aaron,
though?
hold on,
No other big.
hold on, hold on, Aaron.
He has
Let's
a
pull
talent void.
up this comment, please. He says you stagger them, Sean. That's what they're doing, dumbass. That's what it means when you put them out back and forth. That's called staggering, you moron. Like, what do you want? It's like literally what that is. Like you don't even know what you're
Yeah,
asking
and like
for.
Aaron, you got to understand something here. The reason why you can't even just get 10 minutes of them together is because if Stu has 3 fouls and wind up getting 4, there is a difference in the way this team plays with Jalen Duren on the court versus Isaiah Stewart. And right now, the team plays a little bit more polished when Isaiah Stewart is on the floor. His stats are better. He takes better advantage of his time and his minutes. His true shooting and his free throw rate are better than Jalen Duren's. His free throw rate is retarded. It's insane. It's like 58% right now. That means that he's getting a free throw every other field goal attempt. That's wild. That's pretty crazy. You know what I mean? So I don't know, man. He's doing work, but you cannot afford if you want to have any chance to win a game at the end of it, at the end of it, you can't you can't run the risk of playing these guys together early. Because as soon as they get into foul trouble early, all of you guys is going to be in the comments talking about why did he play them together so early? Now they in foul trouble. Now we getting ran off the court because we ain't got no bigs. Blah 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 blah. You got to play it this way. You
Yeah,
have
let's
to play it this way until you get these bigs back. Why? Because they're not contending for anything. They're not contending for anything right now. It's about these guys learning how to play basketball right. We
right.
just got through with Andre Drummond, a guy who never learned how to play basketball right. The one thing I'm not going to do is sit here and say, let's just play guys together just to play guys together, whether it works out for the good of the team or not. That
Also,
doesn't make no sense.
wasn't tonight also the first night all season that the Pistons bench gave them 30 plus points in a night? Like, because they haven't had that type of offense from Killian all season. I think, I don't know if Jalen Duren has put up those types of numbers all season. Like, if you look at it, like that might have been the Pistons' best night that they've had from their bench, and they had like 40 points. And that was like their best night. Right? Like you're like and that's the thing. When you have these types of games, and when you are in the pits of the season, when you are at the beginning, when you are going through these health issues, when your team is just trying to recoup and compete and learn how to get better, and these guys are going through woes. But the reality of it is that you have to look at the positives. So,
Aaron, you're
okay.
not listening, buddy. He wants to play them together. It's not about if they're in foul trouble or not. That's going to dictate if they play together. It's about who they have behind them. When they have at least 3 viable big men that they can consider starters at any point in time, in Marvin Bagley, Isaiah Stewart, and Jalen Duren, then you will see 2 big men lineups. That's just it. They don't have any other bigs. They're playing literally Bojan as a 4, and he's not really a 4 on defense. He cannot guard 4s at all. All it is Stu and then Duren. That is it. If one of those guys, and this is the last time I'm just personally going to address it, if one of those guys gets into foul trouble, you cannot have Duren out there playing 40 minutes if Stu is in foul trouble the whole game. You just
And
can't have that.
and
It's,
again,
it's
he
not going to be
played
good for his development. It's not going to be good for the Pistons at all. It's
and
just
he
not going to.
played and again, he's getting 15 to 20 minutes per game. You're right. How many minutes did he get tonight? 30. Like you are literally asking for.
Yeah.
They just lost because they lost to a better team.
Nerlens Noel, the coach said right now, realistically, Nerlens shouldn't really be playing. He said he's a break glass in case of emergency player. He's still getting back into basketball shape. He is not in a position to go out there and bang with the other bigs out there. And tonight, we were playing one of those teams that have a bunch of scrappy veteran bigs. You know, that got some guys who they're not like the tallest, but they got some guys that get in there and they'll throw you around. The Pistons don't have a lot of those guys yet.
And if you look at what Nerlens Noel did in his minutes, he was essentially a body on the court. Let's look at his stats. Night 1, 0-3 from the field, 2 points, 4 rebounds. Night 2, 4 points, 3 rebounds. Night 3, 2 points, 6
Mhm.
rebounds, and he played 18 minutes, 13 minutes, 18 minutes. Guys, he's not in condition, he's not in shape. He was only playing because we quite literally needed him to, and he was in shape to be able to at least jog up and down the court, but he's not able to do much else right now. He's just not. So when you actually have Marvin Bagley back and he's able to play stints where he can give you reliable minutes, where he can be another presence, another big, another guy who can play that position, where you can actually rotate them around, then you can actually play those two big lineups like he's talking about. So, and
And
the reality of it is, the reason why is because this Pistons team still is one of the youngest teams in the league. And also, if we're just looking at the way the season's shaping out, for being honest, right now we're 3-9. We're in the position where we're like in the bottom few of the conference. We might sneak up and get to a point where we're close to the play-in, but when this team gets fully healthy, they're still gonna, probably hover, when they get to a point where they're like getting better, they're still gonna be just under 500 probably. So it's not that we're saying this team is not gonna win anything. It's just they're learning how to win.
nah,
And
I'm
that's
saying
what
they're
this
not
season's
going
been
anything.
about.
You know why I'm saying they're not going anything? Because Coach Casey said they're not. In his press conference, he said, if we were a contender, then the leashes would be shorter. What that means is they're working on things. Like I told you guys coming into the season, like we said coming into last season.
Yeah, this
These
season was
guys are
learning how
working on
to
things.
be competitive, and they are on the journey to becoming competitive. That doesn't mean they are competitive. That doesn't mean they are competing. It means we're working to be.
Yep, yep. And with this statement here, when should we expect them? They've been there for like 3 years. Not really. I mean, what they made the playoffs with mattress leg Blake because they were trying to win. Now they made the playoffs as well
This
with
would be the
All
third
Star,
year.
All NBA Andre Drummond as well. So they made the playoffs a couple times in the recent history under SVG. And Dwayne Casey just took over the rebuild. Not when he got hired. He got hired to win now. That's what Dwayne Casey was hired to do, and that squad it just wasn't a good fit. He was
The
used to.
rebuild didn't truly start until about October or November of 2020. So we're coming into
Nah,
year 3 right now.
I wouldn't even say that. The rebuild didn't start until March, whenever they got rid of Blake Griffin.
Well,
That's
no,
when the team officially
well, I
started.
was well, I was talking about well, I was talking about because if you think about it, because obviously, like you said, when they got rid of Blake, but before they got rid of Blake too, though, there was a lot of trades that they made and a lot of decisions they made leading up to that as well. Like they made the decision pretty clear before they traded Blake. The writing was kind of on the wall when they got those 3 first round picks that they had, and that was going to be like the direction, right? It's like for me, I would say it was around that draft because that was when you saw Luke Kennard get traded. That's when you saw, them obviously before that move on from Andre, but then, as well, they shipped a lot of pieces out at that point and really started to reconstruct the team. So, even then though, still not that long realistically, like we've talked about before. The team's going to have cap space. Assuming the team's going to be in a decent lottery position this year, that's another, great young prospect to have. Also, you can go and make your team better realistically. This team could very well be in a play-in spot or be more competitive next season. It's not far off at all. In fact, the reason where you can see that is if you look for those glimmers of hope, even when you're losing these games by 20 plus.
Yeah, with this squad, like c- crawling out of the bottom five of the league, if you're in a rebuild, let me ask y'all this. I remember seeing the '04 Pistons. I remember seeing that squad get put together. I remember seeing the arduous process that it took. And I remember how precious it was when they actually won. It was a
Mhm.
precious, precious, precious moment, man. All of Detroit came together. Didn't matter who you were, what you were, all of Michigan, dog. It was a lot of people. It was basically us versus the Lakers, man. I remember that process. And I remember the day that Chauncey Billups got traded. And since that time, it's been a horrible process. The way that this team has tried and this organization has tried to rebuild with this aspect of win on the fly while trying to make the right picks and things of that nature, It's been atrocious. You finally got Troy Weaver, year 3 of Troy Weaver. In my opinion, year 2 of the actual rebuild. The first year was kind of a where we at here, kind of
Yeah, that
kick
was
the
kinda
season
like
back.
the cupboards are empty. Let's figure out, like, how we can get a lottery pick.
Right. And
Yeah.
so now you got Casey who got brought in before Troy Weaver. He's starting over and he's doing something different than he's ever done. Has he developed young talent before? Yes, but on good teams. This is the first time where he's really being saddled or laden with a ton of good young talent, but the team is absolutely not that good.
I
Not a
would
lot
say
of
when
good
he took
veterans.
over Toronto, they were in a pretty similar situation to where we were at the time. But to your point, like, he came in, especially at where the rebuild began, like before, like even when they really started to empty the cupboards, like when they like that off season, they started with nothing. Like at least Toronto, like they had some pieces in place. They had some things there that were promising. Talking about like young assets that these guys started with day one, like really putting it into perspective, there was nothing.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
so
like Tom Gores wouldn't even say the word rebuild until Troy Weaver came around. Until
yeah,
Ed Stefanski and Dwayne Casey and all of them sat him down and said, "This is the position. This is where we have to go."
yeah. And
And then 69mega.com new AI 84.
yeah. They say get Nick Nurse then. Only if he comes with Kawhi Leonard. Like just straight up, and no LeBron James anywhere to be found. You know what I'm
Also,
saying? Like that. That's
also
the
give Dwayne Casey
wild
that
thing.
same roster, same circumstances. He's winning that ring that year.
Yeah, and my thing is this: Weaver is amazing, no issues at all with him. Troy Weaver loves Dwayne Casey as head coach. He thinks that he's doing a fabulous job developing the players. We look at him here. We're pleased with Jaden Ivey. We're pleased with Jalen Durham. We're pleased with Cade Cunningham. We're pleased with Sadiq Bey. We're pleased with Isaiah Stewart. We want to see a little bit more from Killian Hayes. But hey, you know what I mean? 5 out of 6 is not bad. When we went through how many drafts, bro? Waiting for Stanley Johnson, waiting for Brandon Knight. Hey, do we need to continue to rattle off all of the different draft picks? You know,
Also, here's
that's
the
what
other
I don't
piece
like.
too. Here's the other piece too, adding on to that. Another decision that Troy Weaver made this offseason was to go get Jalen Duren, right? But it came at a price, did it not? Because not only did, obviously there was the other trade where we eventually acquired Nerlens as well and Alec Burks, but also we had to eat the salary of Kemba Walker. And so you throw that in, that's another 10, $9 million in dead salary that Troy Weaver chose and essentially made the decision this offseason instead of spend the cap space that we had now to improve our team, he decided to punt that cap space to next offseason and put us in a position now where we can continue to develop our young talent. So you can say, like, yeah, we love Troy Weaver. We love what they're doing. But in the same light, Troy Weaver did actively make decisions this year that made the team worse going into the season. He did. And obviously, I think we're all pretty happy with the fact that we have Jalen Duren, especially at $4 million a year. We'll take that every day of the week and twice on Sunday.
Yeah,
But it comes at a cost. It
yeah, the
just
team would
does.
be better if it had right now Jeremy Grant and Kelly Olynyk on it, like they did last year when they got healthy and they traded for Marvin Bagley. The team was 10-14 after the All Star break. That's a 47% win percentage. Or 41% win percentage. I'm sorry. That was up on the year from their previous, like before that, 27% win percentage on the year. That's a huge thing. When you have actual NBA players that can play NBA basketball and you have your size there as well. You got Marvin Bagley in that pick and roll game. All those things mattered. I'm not saying the Pistons are going to be some world beaters or Marvin Bagley and Alec Burks gets back, but they are going to look like a more well-rounded offense. There's going to be less ISO where guys are just teeing up and just seeing if they can score because that's what the Pistons offense looks like right now. It looks like a bad attempt at pick and roll since they have no pick and roll bigs in there right now. And when that breaks down, you just see a lot of guys going one on one. You see Killian one on one, Cade one on one, Ivy one on one. And the defenses know this. Sadiq Bey one on one. These guys aren't running like a lot of plays like we saw Boston running tonight with their chemistry. That matters. You know, run a lot of different plays with their cutters, knowing where to be. Their guys can set mean picks, and Jason Tatum is getting wide open off of one pick and roll. This is where you want to see our team get to. This is the type of butt kicking you want to see your team go through. Because they did play hard. They did not back down from them. They played hard. That lead kept trying to balloon. They tried to get it back, kept trying to balloon, kept trying to get it back. Hey, straight up, MK, yeah, 100%, bro. Just with Chauncey Love, he took the soul with him. And honestly, what Casey is doing, Stefanski, Arm Tellem, and all those guys in the front office, Troy Weaver, they're breathing life back into this, which is called a restoration. That's what they're doing right now, and it's going to take some time. It's going to take time. What Casey's job is to make sure that those young players are ready for when Troy Weaver goes and actually spends that money on a player, on a couple good players, couple veterans. Casey's job is to make sure that those guys are ready to mesh with the incoming veterans or star players or whatever that Troy can go and bring in. That's Casey's only job. This year is an evaluation year. I'm going to continue to tell you guys this after every single game. What decisions do you know what to make with Killian Hayes, Sadiq Bey, or Isaiah Stewart? How do you know what free agents to go out there and sign to augment your team? What
Right.
superstar do you target? What trades do you want to try and make? This is the time right now before that trade deadline that you decide what type of sellers and buyers you're going to be at the trade deadline, during the draft, and in the free agency. And Troy is smart enough to know that. I've seen this guy work, and being able to cover him professionally last year, we talked about these different things with the Jeremy Grant trade in particular and how that trade all broke down. People wanted Grant gone at the trade deadline. And if he was gone at the deadline, you would have not liked the return. I'm sure everybody likes the fact that he ultimately turned into Jalen Duren in multiple, in an opportunity to take a look at other players as well. So this year right now, and that's why I'm not going to make any excuse. If you want me to give a critique of the game, yeah, piss poor defense. Some of the rotations and lineups were weird. Yeah, I am interested in seeing Jalen Duren and Stewart play right now. I asked the question in the press conference because I want to see it, and I want to know what's the reason why it's not happening. But all the answers make sense. If you play ball, and I know some of you guys have out there, if you've watched ball for a long time, you guys understand exactly what we're talking about. Think about how good the Pistons were when they added Rasheed Wallace to that lineup. And then they also still had other bigs to bring off the bench, like Corliss Williamson, like Eldon Campbell. When you talk about restoration, we talk about how great that was for those teams. We have to be able to apply that to these teams and look at what they're doing to be able to grow into that. They're just not there yet, but they will be. I got a feeling that Troy Weaver is going to fast track this thing. He says he's not going to move at anybody's pace except for his own. And if Cade, Jaden, Stu, Sadiq, if these guys are showing and proving to be like next level, which they are, and you got Bojan in there, brother, you got about $54 million to go and throw any type of solid big that you want in there, any other type of shooters that you want to surround around these guys. And for me personally, I'm hoping they go out there and they get a dynamic wing player, whether that guy's coming off the bench or starting. Give me a dynamic wing who can play both ends of the floor.
I love Chuck, man. Can you throw up his latest comment?
Hey, what did he say?
He said, "You all don't understand what tanking is. LOL. Tanking is sitting Grant. Who are we sitting right now? Facts. Who? Like, tanking is purposefully leaving your best players on the bench. Rebuilding is not having that wealth of
Yep.
talent and going through the process of acquiring it and going through the process of developing it and going through the process of nurturing it. And guess what? You're not going to be able to learn how to play great on night-to-night basis unless you go through some bumps and have some roses and some thorns. So I'm not saying that
Ooh.
this.
I hear you, Sean. Keep going.
Oh, I mean, yeah, this is just facts. The Lions literally have no evidence of showing you that they can go in any direction other than downward. That's literally what they do. Brad Holmes has done a really good job, but it's the Detroit Lions. There's no case of it going literally any other way, whereas the Detroit Pistons are restoring something that's actually been there before.
Bingo,
So,
Aaron. It's a natural tank. We've never seen this, and that's why we don't know how to act. That's why, like, trust me. In the past, a rebuild meant we still had enough to potentially compete for a playoff spot. But now it's a position where it's like, no, it's really down to the studs. Then when it started raining, y'all like, why is my head getting wet? Because he tore it down to the studs. We finally getting that true rebuild, but it's going to be the house that you want when it's all said and done. Whether Coach Casey is the guy to, you know what I'm saying, lead this team in the future or not as the head coach, who knows? But I do trust Troy Weaver and his judgment in this thing here.
And this is how good, by the way, Boston has been offensively this year. Just to put it in perspective, the Celtics led the NBA with an offensive rating of 118.5 this season.
Ooh,
That currently ranks first by any
ooh,
team
yeah,
since
that's
the
hot,
NBA merger,
bro.
Kool-Aid.
These two,
So, all right, hold
woo.
on. So the NBA merger, for those of you that don't know, is almost a 50-year time span. So these guys are literally running the best offense we've seen since the NBA and the ABA merged.
All right,
So
Sean.
these guys are really good.
Sean, you're our NBA representation here from half court and
Uh-huh.
everything. What the heck are they doing, bro?
So there's a couple things to it. I think for one, when I think you see a lot of times when young stars get their first taste of the finals of that true postseason success, that playing at a star level in the playoffs, I think you just see that confidence go to the next level. And I think what you're seeing is Jalen Brown and Jason Tatum both playing the best basketball that they've played. They
Mm,
combined for 61 points tonight. They both started the season averaging 30 plus points a game. They both, have been electric. And even though they lost Ime Udoka, they didn't lose the spirit of what, his coaching staff brought. Joe Mazzulla is a more than capable coach and a more than capable
was
head.
impressed.
And also the veterans and the people and the voices they have within the locker room and the organization that they're running. They're top class. That's the reality of it. They're so good offensively because Jason Tatum is turning into that MVP caliber player that we all thought he could be, right? Like he's playing a different level. And then you have Jalen Brown, who's probably playing as like a top 10 player in the league right now, too. Isn't it crazy, by the way, Kool-Aid? This
Hmm.
time last year, the discourse on NBA Twitter was, which by the way, I said he would be pretty nice. I not? But anyway, um the thing is, like, the discourse on NBA Twitter this time last year was whether or not Jalen Brown and Jason Tatum were working together, whether or not they should be split up. That's how crazy. That's like, imagine having that conversation now. If I'm Brad Stevens, I'm like, split them up. That
Hmm.
like they're
Yeah.
they're they're playing, dynamic lights out basketball. And the other thing too, there were just points where the Pistons are playing good defense. Celtics are just better offense. Like, they were hitting tough shots, right? Guys right in their face. And the other thing that I think you saw too, with Sam Hauser, he's a guy that, like these last couple of years was on the main Celtics and was part of their G League system. And it's symbolic of the fact that this is the type of program we're aspiring to be in the long run, because not only do they have these great, veterans and these solid players that have been developed, but they have these other guys within their system that they're developing right now too. So that's like what you really want to turn into in the long term. And so, yeah, it's one of those things where they were outclassed because the Celtics are where we want to be.
Yeah, yeah, and I thought largely their fight and their energy, their drive. There were periods in the game where it looked lackluster, and Coach Casey made sure to call those timeouts quick, man, and get on their heads. He was yelling at them. It was fire. That's as much as he can realistically do. These are all world players, man. These are the
Mhm.
best basketball players in the world. Control your effort. That's on them. That is on them, and they didn't do it in certain parts, but those are in just certain parts. I just want to be fair to that. Largely, I appreciated their fight, knowing that they're undersized, knowing that they're undermanned, knowing that they're down to injury. Marvin Bagley is a big deal, guys. He's not a superstar or star player, but he is currently, I believe, their second highest paid player. He was somebody that averaged about 17 and 6 for them last year. He was huge for them in the pick and roll game, huge for Cade Cunningham and Killian Hayes. That's why you're seeing a lot more ISO right now. We talked about this in the preseason. Why aren't they running pick and rolls? We thought at the time that it was just because they wanted to get working on other aspects of their game, and then Marvin Bagley got hurt. And so that was just an unfortunate start to the season because we don't even know where they were realistically going to slot him. We don't know if they were going to bring someone off the bench and start Marvin Bagley. Now with him coming off of injury, we know it's going to be something off the bench, but I can't see them not at least giving him heavy minutes if the offensive efficiency goes up with Marvin Bagley on the floor. And he's one of those type of guys who, though the offensive efficiency can go up when Bojan's on the court, I do not like his defense at all. And though Marvin Bagley has some ways to go defensively, he's proven at least in his time in Detroit to be better at that
He
fourth
can
spot.
when he is in position at the rim, he can deter shots at the rim. It's just a matter of
Yeah.
consistently being in position. So, I think when talking about like what the rotation can be, like what the freedom could be when Bagley and Burks are back in the lineup, I think at that point, like I think you can see like almost like, I do think you can see like almost like 4 or 5 minutes into the game, almost immediately Duren coming out on the court to play with Isaiah Stewart, right? Like I think you
Yeah.
could see, Sadiq Bey, going and sitting with going and sitting and coming out and playing a lot with the second unit and sparking that offensively alongside, Marvin Bagley and Alec Burks. And I think with that, that's where that variety comes in. And that's where you can, have a little bit more room to play with when you actually have guys available on your bench, right? So, I think it's going to definitely give them more room to play with. I think, overall, like, it's just like the tough thing has been, it seems like whenever like one aspect of the Pistons, like they have one aspect of their game going, it feels like another one's off. It's like one night Cade's playing great, their second unit can't score a bucket to save their lives. Everyone else is struggling to shoot. Jaden Ivey was electric tonight. Cade just didn't have it tonight. Bench did, but, like, that's the thing is, like, when especially when you're shorthanded and like, especially, like, you need so many things to go well to get a win, like, in particular, that Golden State win, everyone in the starting lineup played well and got theirs, right?
Yeah.
So, like, that's where,
Yeah.
like, you need everything to go well when you're shorthanded like they are, and that's the problem is that it's just not how everything works on a night-to-night
And
basis
they're
in the
not
NBA.
just shorthanded, they're young, they're inexperienced, they are still learning. Though we like these players, though these guys are panning out better than the Stanley Johnsons and Brandon Knights and Andre Drummonds of the world, they're still young and they're still learning. Their pick and roll game, I'm gonna just call it what it is. It's atrocious, bro.
Mhm.
Jalen Duren has to learn how to play it. Did you see the pick and roll lob attempt between Sadiq Bey and Jalen Duren tonight? It
Yeah, it
was
wasn't.
bad, bro. It was bad. That's what I'm trying to tell people. Like at some point in time, we got to respect the fact that these guys are trying to get better. They have to get better. They got to go work. Now, if they come back, if they keep doing this all season, then it's just like no excuse. 11 games in, we start to gauge the trends and look at what they need to get better at. And if they don't show any improvement, then it's just like, okay, we will bring the fire. We will bring it. I promise that. But
Yeah.
right now, just looking at the team and assessing them is where you get the picture of who they actually are so that you don't wind up overreacting to every little thing that happens. Now all of a sudden we know this is a bad pick and roll team. They don't really have any lob threats, which is weird with Jalen Duren's size and athleticism, but it speaks true. He's coming in here almost as raw as a talent as Andre Drummond, but he's had a little bit better pedigree around him.
Yeah. He
And
he's
that's he'll get there.
he's really solid on the defensive end, but I think, really that offensive game is where you're really seeing that, and he's showing that, that he was able to cut to the basket, he was fine on like, some backdoor cuts and things like that. But to your point, like, he has to learn how to be a better pick and roll big and, being able to, play in space and find where you can get openings because part of it isn't just being a tall guy that they can throw a ball to over the rim. It's
Still
about
out.
positioning, it's about timing, it's about rhythm, it's about the cadence with who you're doing the pick and roll with. Like that's the piece of it where, Duren's just one of those guys where, he just goes to the rim, wants to get to the rim, get to the rim, get to the rim. But like at the same time, it's like you got to think about your approach. It has to be a little bit more strategic.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's one of those things where, it's not going to happen overnight. But, again, there were again, even on the offensive end for Duran tonight, there were signs of improvement, even with the bat. So,
Bingo, Marvin. And defenses, teams know this. I've got to, sit with some scouts now a couple times at these games. These people know this stuff. They know, hey, they ain't got no bigs. As soon as they go and they run that pick and roll, then there's nobody in the paint. And that's what I'm saying. When you get Marvin Bagley back, there will be another big in that paint, especially when teams decide that's what they want to go to. Now you have a bags for that.
mhm.
But Stewart has been impressing me lately. Another double double for him tonight, 12 and
Mhm.
10. That's 7 on the season for Marvin Bagley. He
Isn't
had
he in the top 10?
20
I think he's in the
total,
top 10 in the league for
tied
double
for
doubles this
fifth.
year.
He was tied for fifth before this game. I think he should still be there. I don't think there wasn't a crazy amount of games in between now and the last one. But he
Right.
was tied for fifth with Tyrese Halliburton, actually. But this is where I want to show you guys something. 20 minutes of play for Isaiah Stewart, 12 points, 10 rebounds, right? 30 minutes of play for Jalen Duren, 10 points, 10 rebounds. Sounds good. Sounds even. Sounds fair is fair. This is where the difference is. And this is what I was trying to tell you guys about Beef Stew in that free throw rate. 6 free throw attempts. He was 5 to 6 tonight. That's Beef Stew. In 20 minutes versus absolutely no free throw attempts for Jalen Duren because of style of play. Because
Sadiq
of
was really
style
good
of
at getting
play.
to the line tonight.
No, no, Sadiq, he got there with 9 to 10 tonight.
Yeah,
But
yeah, that's what I'm saying. He's been able to, it seems, like, and even Kelser pointed this out in the broadcast as well. It seems like when his three isn't going, he's finding that way to get to the line, cut to the basket. Like he's starting to make that like more of a regular part of his game. And with his jump shot, I mean, that's a good thing to have for the Pistons, right? So I
yeah,
think,
yeah.
definitely some steps in the right direction in that aspect. It's like, yeah, they played rough, but like, I don't think this was like a terrible game from them.
No, 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 not at all. And with Bagley, not necessarily starting this regime in particular, the battery of Troy plus Casey has consistently said things like this. They don't got to start. It's about who's ending and finishing the game, or they don't have to start. It's about how many minutes they're actually playing. I believe Marvin Bagley will play starter minutes. I believe we will see starter minutes worth amount of two big lineups, whether they start two bigs or not. I
Right.
believe that they're starting a lineup that they're doing right now because it gives them the best punch to do what? Score. And if you get off to a hot start, cool. If you don't, then you instantly go and swap in some of these bigs to go with a bigger lineup. And you're not just going with a bigger lineup. Like the Pistons, you still Eldon Campbell out there, and he could bang. No, Marvin Bagley will actually go and dunk. He'll actually go out there and work on an offense. You got to account for him on that side of the court as well. So,
And
when they get that versatility back, they'll look a lot more, in my opinion, competitive because they're not going to be as small in the middle. They're going to have a few more guys that are NBA guys. Adding Alec Burks and Marvin Bagley to this roster is adding 2 NBA guys that did things at good levels, high levels last year. Alec Burks, what, 40% 3-point shooter last year. 40% is going to be huge, man. What if Killian had that right now to throw to? But instead, Hamidou Diallo, who I love and respect his energy, he's not really the knockdown shooter. So there's a lot of plays where Killian's running the play successfully, throwing it out to Hami, who's open, but then Hami does this
yeah,
and then wants to try and drive.
and
That
li-
just messes up the whole offense. What are
yeah,
you gonna do?
and even Livers, like, at times, like, he's been able to hit a shot, but, like, he hasn't been able to, like, find consistent opportunities, within the rotation. Like, if you just look at if you look at the team as the whole, that second unit really just hasn't been scoring at all. And there's only been one team in the league who's had a worse bench than us. It's the Philadelphia 76ers.
Mm.
And, so when you look at, like, scoring, like, per game, like, that's where they're really bleeding is when and again, like, that's where you have the pressure on Cade to have to be near perfect every night. And that's why, like, a night like that's why his performance, like, tonight, like, sticks out. Like, if Cade has a 20 plus point game, we win. We literally win.
Yeah, it puts a certain pressure on the defense, and realistically, it's just I don't know, man. I'm looking at the stats. I'm looking at the minutes played and things of that nature. It's just an off night. It's just off night. This is one of those nights where at 24 minutes played, Casey recognized this off night. Go grab some bench. Get ready for the next game. Why? Because Saturday night is gonna be live. Saturday night's away. Yes, Suyu. Yes, they were shooting bricks. They definitely were. I will give you that. They shot what 7 of 33 from three or something like that.
Yep.
Something.
Mhm. Yeah, but
Yeah,
that's been a problem all season. Like,
all
that's
season.
been like, and it's not just from their start, like, like, their starting unit's been their saving grace. That's been where their offense has been. It's their second unit. They can't score. They can't shoot.
Yeah,
You have Hamidou Diallo coming in shooting 2 of 8. Killian Hayes, outside of his one night where he was 7 of 12, he's been like 2 of 6, 2 of 7, 1 of 5, 1 of 6. Like, you just, it's like, yeah, the guys are like, and that's the other piece of it, is like Dwayne Casey can't go out there and make shots for everybody, right?
right.
Like at the end, like, he can put them in position to score. It's not like these guys aren't getting open looks, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Just
and
got to
that's the
knock them
speed
down.
in math. He can score his tail off. But guys, I really like the fact that Jaden Ivey was on triple double watch by halftime. We talked about all the different things he was able to do. We said in the pre-draft reviews and previews that yes, you want Ben Math if you want an absolute ringer of a score. He can go out there and fill it up. But you see guys like that, and sometimes they don't necessarily affect overall winning as the number one. I believe that Ivy has the ability to be an absolute just stud. When you look at his overall points affected, well, he's above 30 points. I don't know what Ben Math's overall points affected was in terms of points scored, assists, and other different aspects of the game. But Jaden Ivey every night now is going out there and he's just playing his role, picking his spots, and he's not given necessarily the same green light. And on this team, you see that Cade and Sadiq have high usage rates. Ivy does have a 20% usage rate, but he's sitting a little bit back in a pecking order. And then that even gets weirder when you bring in Killian, who's now who's running the point guard. So Ivy doesn't have the same opportunities that Ben Math does to be able to put up those types of scoring numbers. And I don't even think he would if he did. But his overall impact on the game would be something felt throughout the whole entire stat sheet. That's what Jaden Ivey brings to the game. And as he gets more polished on the offensive side, yeah, I look out for Ivy, man. For real. He's
Yeah.
already, already doing better than I remember when we sat here
Well,
and said, can he get to 15, 5, and 5? People in these same chats say, what? Nah, he a rookie.
yeah.
He's there though.
Yeah. And he's there early. And,
Also,
the other
Cade
thing,
rookie year stats was 17, 5, and 5.
yeah, they both look great. And I think with Ivy's athleticism, like, we just see the insane room for growth that he has. Right. And, Ben Math looks like an absolute stud, but
Yeah,
when your guy does too, I don't think there's anything to be, sour grapes about, they'll have the opportunity on Friday. They'll be going back to the Garden to face the Knicks again. And then Saturday night, second night of a back-to-back, coming home to face, Boston again. So this stretch isn't going to get any easier, but, again, down the stretch this weekend, especially that second night of a back-to-back, I think is when, the first time I think we could realistically potentially see Bagley or Burks in the lineup. Because when you
mhm.
think about it, logically, if you're going to play these guys in a back-to-back setting, you're probably not going to play them on the road. You're probably not going to play them the first night of a back-to-back. You'd probably want to make their debut at home Saturday night, second night of a back-to-back, especially in case of certain guys have to get a rest. I think that'd be a night where you could circle perhaps the first night of realistic return could happen.
Yeah, yeah. And it's all gonna be interesting, man. It's all
Yeah,
gonna be
I
interesting
guarantee
this
I
season.
guarantee you Cade is gonna take that second matchup personally against Boston.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. Like, you know these things. Saturday night's a night where I already got the alerts, man. Ticket price is already a little high. It's a Saturday night in Detroit. Not quite winter yet. The weekend is supposed to be
Oh, we'll
decent.
get there by then. Oh, we'll get there.
It's on the way. But this is one where I believe Coach Casey was just like, you know what? Just go grab some bench, get some shower, keep yourself healthy, get to this game, and show out in front of the home crowd. You know, that's what I want to see K do when he comes back. And like you said, take it more personal. Got to be better in this game. But And
This
I
is
think that's about it. I gotta
yeah,
get to the
this
article.
Yeah, real quick. This is from our guy Mike Curtis about just
Yeah.
that. This is from Dwayne Casey on Cade's off night. The Celtics were into him and didn't allow him to get to his sweet spot. Did a good job of switching off onto him, challenging his shot. Just made it tough on him. He just had one of those nights that sometimes you have. He just couldn't buy a bucket. That's all it is. See? And that's what you want to see. Ultimately, Dwayne Casey's not going to freak out because there's no reason to freak out. It was
Nope.
one night. It was a rough night.
Nope.
In the beauty of it, you have 81 more. So
Yeah, I'm not freaking out about Cade Cunningham. I'm gonna continue to tell people this. I'm gonna continue to tell people this, and I'm gonna continue to tell people this. Cade Cunningham is probably the only guy on the roster who I am not gonna freak out about at all on any level. On any level,
just
he
keep that
is.
same energy.
Yeah, he's the one that should have gotten a designation that Joe Dumars gave to Rodney Stuckey. Cade Cunningham is the golden calf. I literally will stake whatever on that, man. I'll stake
You
my
said
right
that
on
about
that.
Rodney Stuckey.
Joe Dumars said that.
When you talk about when people want to go over things that should be fired, that's something that's that
Bro,
okay. That's a whole other
bro,
podcast.
they
That is a
traded Chauncey Billups to let Rodney Stuckey get some run, bro.
it's a whole other but we got to do it. We're gonna have to do a pod about that at some point, dude. We're gonna have
Bro,
to
I
like
gotta go to bed on that. No, I'm
oh,
actually gonna write the
oh
article
yeah,
now.
that's one where you just like you can't be awake anymore that day. But no, for real though, everybody. First of all, like I saw people were like, "Man, Sean screaming at the chat." I'm like, "Yeah, don't you tune in? That's what I do all the time." But anyway, I'm like, that's just what I call Tuesday. But for real though, man, thank you all so much for tuning in. I know tonight wasn't a fun night, but I promise you all there will be better nights to come. There are still fun things to watch about this team. There's still a lot of reasons to be optimistic, and
Yeah,
winning basketball is not far away from Detroit. We appreciate you all being a part of this audience. We appreciate you all, joining in the conversation. Even if we disagree, even if you don't see eye to eye, we still love the conversation. We still love the ability to talk basketball. If you like this podcast, if you like this show, be sure you like this. Be sure you like this video. Subscribe to War Pistons as well. And also be sure that you're on the lookout for what we have cooking on our social medias. You're going to want to be there at Detroit Kool-Aid. And if you're feeling oh so generous to follow me on the house that Elon built, you can follow me at Sean Half Court. But I'll get you guys straight. Hey, Aaron, all love, brother. Hey, I get in the heat of the moment. I love arguing basketball. At the end of the day, it's all fun here. So for real, y'all, appreciate each and every one of you for being here. We love the community that we have. We love the ability that we have. And listen, we're gonna keep, being real. We're gonna keep being critical when it's time to be critical. But at the same time, we're going to have moments where, you know, we're just going to tell it how it is. So, all love, man. 100%, Aaron.
all love.
Appreciate you being here for real. Seriously, all love. But thank you all so much for tuning in. Thank you all very much. We will catch you guys tomorrow night for another edition of Woodward Piston Table Talk. See you later, everybody.
Let's get it. Let's get it.